I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands.
Welcome to Build an Iconic Life podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whitehead, and this podcast is dedicated to help you build a life with zero regrets by focusing on how you have everything you need to stand up, stand out, and live life on your terms. Let's dive right in. Hey everybody, Chris Whitehead. Welcome back to Build an Iconic Life. I'm here with Justin Breen. He's a newer entrepreneur, but he's doing some amazing things in the world. And Justin, welcome to the show. Glad you're here, man.
Well, it's a great honor to be here. We're recording this the day before 7 years to the day. My job salary as a journalist was cut in half, and that led to starting First Company. So it's always interesting to reflect back on that.
Well, tell us how it first began.
Well, I strongly am convinced you're either born top visionary on planet or you're not. I'm convinced of that at this point. And what a true visionary is they're the most damaged person with the best coping skills. So the most damage, most trauma, but then they have highest IQ, EQ. February 10th, 2017, was a journalist, had job salary cut in half in a 5-minute meeting. 2 other people were fired that day. But job salary was cut in half. Our children were like 2 and 3 at the time. And had a pretty expensive mortgage, still do, but and so tried to get a job, couldn't find a job. Incorporated April 16th, 2017, 6 days after turning 40 with zero business background. Then while I was working full time at half salary, reached out to 5,000 people. It's really more than 5,000, but 5,000 is easier to say. 5,000 people to find first 5 clients. So 0.1% success rate. Got 5th client, I think on June 1st, June 2nd, resigned. And then at the time, he's since retired, but at the time he was the top media columnist in the Midwest, Robert Feeder. He did a story. I'd started my own firm. So that was, just the start First Company, now running 2 that only partner with top visionaries on planet or those who will make investment to be in a room with people like that. So it's been an interesting progression to see that.
Talk about why you built BrEpic Network.
Yes.
Why you only work with top visionaries, and what does that collaborative process look like once people are a part of your organization?
Tremendous. Yeah, you're a high level visionary thinker. So most of my days talking to the world's top visionaries, or spending time with my family. Most of the world's top visionaries are ADD, ADHD, diagnosed or undiagnosed. They're all over the place. And then my brain hears blah, 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 and simplifies into patterns. So everything is a pattern answer from a genius visionary. And purpose of my life is connecting visionaries to serve humanity. First Company, which I guess is a PR firm, but I was a journalist for 20 years and created an entire First Company based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. So I don't really know what PR firms do. They just bothered me. But so all the First Company is connecting visionaries to serve humanity through opportunities like this, through platforms like this. And then the second company, BrEpic Network, is connections for anything. Connections for anything through a SaaS platform, through several masterminds a month. My wife's the COO, and my partner, who's in San Francisco, he does 8 and 9-figure deals all day. They're planning the big in-person event for May, but we talk about in the room scaling consciousness. What the meaning of life is, IQ, what separates a visionary or differentiates a visionary from a business owner or a consultant or an employee. And many of our members, most of them are very wealthy. Some aren't, but they're all changing the world. They are not their world linear thinkers. They're the world exponential thinkers, and there is no competition. They only want to collaborate, and we're all teaching each other. There's no hierarchy. I don't really like groups where there's a hierarchy. It annoys me. So it's all teaching each other. We're all learning from each other.
Yeah, I've had the experience of working in the corporate world, and at 24, I decided to oust myself from a job, and
Mhm.
zero entrepreneurial knowledge, and actually jumped into a career I had no idea about, which is
Right.
remodeling.
Right.
And
Sense.
the one thing, and we're going to get into these little numbers, but the one thing that I've always been very comfortable doing is starting something, breaking it, and having the belief in myself that, like, I'll figure it out. Um,
Yes.
what I found is that was a bite of the elephant's ass that was much larger than I had ever considered. But
Yeah.
man, as I look back over a 26-year career, I would never change
No. Of
anything that happened, even the
course.
painful experiences.
Of
And
course.
like you said, I get the most energy around by being around people that take the governor off. They have unlimited thinking. They say crazy things that cannot be accomplished in the
Not crazy.
normal.
They're not crazy.
Right,
Humans think they're crazy. I don't
right.
like humans.
And what I found, and I ended up writing a book too, How to Make Today's Ceiling Tomorrow's Floor. What I found is I had my own limiting beliefs that these
Right.
people were helping me bust through.
Correct.
And that is the most exciting feeling in the world, is realizing that
Yes.
I have untapped potential. And that's all I hear you talking
Limitless.
about as well. Huh?
Limitless potential. There's no limits. Yeah. So most of the world, I've been obsessed with scale of consciousness lately. um, I think that's the ultimate scaling. So people talk about scaling companies or whatever. I mean, that's fine. I don't really care about that stuff or revenue or anything. But scaling human consciousness, that's something that's really, I think doing that will allow humanity to scale itself. Like that's what I so there's Dr. David Hawkins. He spent his whole life. I'm looking for the thing here, but he died in 2003. But he spent his whole life, and he was a PhD and MD and all that stuff. But he spent his whole life like looking at the scale of consciousness. So he developed a scale, and so most humans, it goes up to 1,000, but most humans never get to 200, which is courage. So like most people don't have the courage to leave corporate at 24 or start a company. They just don't. They don't. So here are some terms that are under 200: fear, grief, apathy, anger, desire. So like that's most of the world. Only 1% of the world ever gets to 500, which is inner love. Only 0.4% gets to 540, which is oneness. This is in the self realization area. Um, most of the people I talk to are in the 600 to 800 area. That's presence. And then 800 is the great void. I'm in that 800 area, which is actually really exciting because 850 is divine grace and love union, and there's this book called The Prayer of Jabez. I
Yeah.
started reading. Oh, right. Okay, there you go. See, a non-visionary would be like, eh, but so I read that prayer every morning. That's the first thing I do every day, and that's absolutely getting me to 850. And then 1,000 is full consciousness. So there are two people that I've met fairly recently that are very close to 1,000, and that's full consciousness enlightenment. So the first, my wife and I are very grateful that we got to go to Necker Island. That's where Sir Richard Branson lives. So we spent a week with him and other entrepreneurs. He was at every meal. He did a Q&A. He was with us basically the whole time. He's very close to 1,000. And then one of my great friends whose parents were sharecroppers, and now he's on the board of NASDAQ because that visionaries don't make excuses. They just do it. He invited me to ring the bell at NASDAQ a couple days ago.
Cool.
And I know, right. Well, this is so this is why I scale consciousness. And I don't even know what an S Corp is. I don't know anything about finance stuff. I don't care about that. But so it's ringing the bell at NASDAQ. And Deepak Chopra was there. So I got to meet him. And he's very close to 1,000, very close. And then I've met a few people in the 900s. They just radiate a different type of being. I would guess you're in the 700 to 800 range, maybe a little over 800, which very few people get to. Very few.
Appreciate the compliment. I would like to actually do a little bit more research on that, because the angle that I'd come, and I've been doing this now maybe 10 years, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit more,
Yeah.
is vibration and frequency, and moving past acceptance into love, and then from there being one with God. Whoever
Acceptance is 350. So there you go.
Yeah. And watching the tangible benefits. So people are listening to this, are going, "Oh, it sounds woo-woo." Yeah, well, you're just not studying.
No. Incorrect. The humans are saying that, not the
Correct.
visionaries.
Correct. And what I have found is a tangible benefit that I believe is accessible to anyone that's willing to challenge themselves to do it.
Willingness is 310.
The ability to literally manifest physical by thinking and aligning my emotions, my soul, and my mind to a definite purpose, and then watching the opportunities start to show up through the reticular activating system and just moving forward through it. And it's the most fun thing, Justin, because it's anything that I think that I want to actually accomplish.
Anything. Okay, so thank you for saying that. We are both simplifiers. That's great. So I love doing these shows because you learn in real time, and it's a collaborative conversation. So
Sure.
a host was asking me, so I think he was saying this. He's like 80% of all success is mindset. I just stopped and I go, no, 100%, not 80, 100%, 100%. And then my brain turns everything into patterns, everything. So my favorite pattern, that whatever my brain does, favorite pattern is right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities. Right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities. Right mindset attracts wrong mindset, limited mindset attracts wrong network, limited network creates wrong, limited, no opportunities. It's very simple. Mindset is 100%, 100%.
You know, when I first spoke to you, you were very quick to ask me about my Colby score.
Yes.
And you said very, very quickly, and you almost, it's really cool. It's like J.K. Rowling. You were like, I don't talk to humans.
Right.
And what I have found is anybody that has below a 7 on this thing called quick start is somebody that is just not going to be naturally aligned with me. Would you like to take people through the process of what Colby is, why we have these crazy numbers up here, and what it tells you?
Well, one, thanks for putting your number up there. I didn't even notice that. I never look at the screen, but so I'm not affiliated with Colby at all.
Nor am I.
Okay, great. I don't care what someone does. I don't care where they live. That's meaningless to me. I want to know if they're going to actually do something. And I have found the best way to see if someone is a visionary or not is to have them take their Colby A index, Colby.com, KOLBE.com, A index assessment. It takes 20 minutes. It measures how your brain takes action. And then most visionaries, most are like you, where they're high quick start. You're a 9 quick start. 10 is the highest. In human world, a 10 quick start is 1 out of 200 humans. In my world, it's like 1 out of 8 or 9. The average score of the people I talk to is like 3393. So that's pure visionary ADD. You're in that range. So you are 9 quick start, 3 follow through. So that's ADD, ADHD diagnosed or undiagnosed without a stabilizing human or integrator or follow through person. Very bad situation.
Yes.
Yes, correct. Thank you. No, I am the very, 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 very rare visionary that has high quick start, high follow through, and high fact finder. So I'm like 3 people in one. That I've never met another 8671. I don't think I will. And then most integrators, humans, small business owners, consultants, they are lower quick start, higher follow through. So they're waiting for a visionary to give them direction, and then they follow through. Okay, so that's one. Here is the advanced doubling down on this. Advanced doubling down on what we were previously talking about with scale of consciousness. I think folks with your score or close to it, the visionaries with your score with higher quick start, they are not afraid of risk. They're not afraid of risk, so they'll do things much faster and therefore learn things much faster and therefore move up on the scale of consciousness much faster than someone who is afraid of risk or overthinks things, and then keeps following through themselves as opposed to humans following up for them. So your essential ADD ADHD score is a great it's a great guide for you to moving up scale of consciousness faster because you're not afraid to. You'll just do it. You'll just leave corporate at 24 and be like, oh, whatever, it's fine.
To the chagrin of everyone around me.
Those are humans that are under 200 with pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, shame.
And Justin, it took me a long time on an emotional level to break away from people that think like that, even people that are in my own family of origin.
Well, people like us are usually aliens within our own family, community, and verticals. The only people who understand us are top entrepreneurs on planet. I spent most of my life talking like this, and no one had any idea what I was talking about.
Really?
Well, right. You're the same thing.
So no matter what subject I got into, I'm very good at getting to the bottom line of things, like what is the pulse, what is the point. We can build off that foundation. And so even when we started talking about religion and I was younger, I would be talking to people that were much older than me, and I looked like an alien to them because of how I communicated. My understanding on a emotional level, what was being said and how it was being implemented. But it's led to, like, my third core value is innovation. No joke. Of course it is. And I didn't actually put that together until I retook the Colby score or Colby A test. And I was like, well, of course I'm going to be an innovator because I don't mind breaking things and rebuilding them over and over and over.
You're invention wonder. Yeah. I'm discernment galvanized. So I talk to invention wonder who I go, oh, I'll break this, break this, break this, break this, break this. Oh, I'll break this. Oh, shiny object. Oh, look, a squirrel. And I'll be like, no, 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 yes, go. No, 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 yes, connect, go. No, 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 yes, go. That's it.
And is that because your ability to put the pattern together for the end result?
Well, there's two things from that. One, very high IQ. Two, extremely high intuition, empathy for visionaries. I understand people like us usually better than they understand themselves because they talk to humans or employees all day, not visionaries. So all I do is talk to visionaries. Having a managing conversation, that does not go well. So it's pattern recognition and then discernment galvanized, and then I've spent my whole life doing this. This is really all I've done in any capacity my whole life, whether it's interviewing people and simplifying it into a story, or connecting people through media, or connecting people and simplifying things through entrepreneur world. I mean, it's never really changed. It's evolved. It's evolved for sure, but the general purpose of connecting visionaries to serve humanity has never really changed.
What are some of the best questions that someone can ask you that literally light you up, because then you can serve humanity? Because what I keep hearing is I'm connecting these people to serve humanity. We can't forget that there is a human, and I mean that in a different way than you're saying. There is a person on the back end of this that is like, hey, I've been given a vision as well. And they can activate
do it. But yeah, talk is meaningless to me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but when someone says that I inspire them, I'm like, okay, great, but what are you going to do about it? Like, inspiration doesn't. It's like sitting in the seats watching a game, and then you don't want to be part of the game. Like, it's great to, like I was a sports editor for a long time, so I like to, watch the game to learn what greatness was, and then talk to the people creating the greatness afterward to really learn greatness. But the people that cheer on teams and then they don't like want to do anything about that or learn from that with themselves, and they're just being inspired by it but not doing anything. I don't understand that. I'm like, why would you? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Do something with it.
So most of my life, I've been a doer. So much so that I didn't remember statistics from sports, even though I played them. I didn't remember people's names because it doesn't matter. And I never looked at there are not many people in my life that I've looked at and hero worship them. It's not really in my nature to do that. So when that fame started coming back at me, the first thing that happened is my ego got boosted. And I realized immediately that I was leaning into being stroked that way. And my Pavlovian response was to go, what is going on in me that I feel the need for that? And I started to get rid of it. And like you, I'm at a place now when people are inspired. The very first thing that comes through my head is, well, I wonder what the hell you're going to do with that inspiration now. I want to see you level up, because I get very excited watching people move to whatever next level they go to.
And when you see, so like, okay, thank you for saying that. Within the network that my partner and my wife and I have created, that's all people really want. They want to raise their level of consciousness. And when you have dozens of people in the same room that all have genius hearts and genius brains, all combined, I can explain what that means in a second. But
please do.
That's when you see massive jumps in levels of consciousness, even for people that don't say anything. They can just absorb it. It's unbelievable. And I'm not an emotional person at all, but I'd say half of our meetings I've been on the verge of tears because it's so
coming out.
It's just beautiful because it's the ultimate beauty, like, because it's not inspiration. I mean, it is inspirational, but it's actualized. It's actualized. Okay. So then there are only two types of geniuses. There are only two. So everyone I talk to has a genius brain, whether that's high IQ or so this is like the Caltech brain or the Harvard brain, or even if they didn't go to Harvard or Caltech, geniuses. So a lot of those people, unfortunately, I guess, do not have genius hearts. So they are stroked by ego, narcissists, cyborgs. They build funnels and all that stuff. Scientists, geniuses. Okay. Okay. They don't have the genius heart. Then there's the genius heart. This is the small nonprofit, kumbaya, hippie on corner, guitar player, but they don't have a genius brain, so they can't fully mechanize it. They can't. I mean, they can't. They're playing guitar on a street corner, which is fine. That's great. When you combine both, that's when you see that's the true visionary. That's the true visionary.
Well, and I finished a book not very long ago called Elon Musk. Would you consider him to be a prime example of heart and mind?
No.
And why?
He's all mind.
Yes.
All mind. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, throughout his book, the biographer was saying that he loves people, but he cannot love a person. So he loves humanity, humankind. He wants humankind to evolve, but his ability to connect individually is just not there. And for me, as I was listening to that, it's 1 degree off of perfection is how I sensed it. For me, is my understanding of what perfection would be, because the ability to love humankind but not to love a human misses the whole human experience.
No. So on the scale of consciousness, he's not at 5. He's not even at 500. By the way, that's fine. I believe Albert Einstein never made it to 500 either. Again, the highest I've met were Sir Richard Branson and Deepak Chopra. Those were the two.
And you could feel the energy emanating from them.
Immediately. Yeah. And I have not met Elon in person, but I imagine the energy emanating from him with with most people would be fear and not understanding. Whereas
Yeah.
Branson and Deepak were like, not, it was the opposite of that. It was the opposite of
What would you say about somebody like Steve Jobs?
that. Also genius brain, not genius heart.
And do you think, and that's one of the things that I think is interesting, especially about our Western world, look at who we promote and look at what we push away. And
Well, I'll give you so Branson. So talk is meaningless to me. It's meaningless to me. Only examples in action. So Branson was talking about how Western civilization. This is what we were talking about on Necker Island. But he was talking about he never understood Western civilization, how they built houses, because all of his houses and it's all inspired by like communal, like giant tables and like open spaces. And then he was like, I don't understand how people build houses in these segregate. They're all just segregated living quarters, which don't encourage like friendly playing, or you know what I mean, like communal
yeah,
neighborhood playing. And that's what led. And then so what? Look at the byproduct of that. Western civilization idolizes the genius brains, not necessarily the genius brains with the genius hearts. They measure that's what I mean. Scaling levels of consciousness is such a higher level discussion than scaling companies, and employee count. Like I don't even understand that stuff and never have, and was always annoyed by it, and unconsciously or subconsciously. And now I realize, well, it's because it's not a true measuring stick for life or consciousness. It's not. It's much lower, much lower.
What my experience has been speaking to your level is if you actually focus on the highest level of good you can achieve,
Yes.
become that and actually attract that,
Yes.
the company actually builds itself.
100%. It scales itself. And then the only two questions I ask myself every day that matter, only two. One, did I have a good experience that day with my family? Two, did network grow on a global level? Okay. So one, answer to those are yes every day. Two, okay, talk is meaningless. So we're about to be named one of top 5 masterminds on planet, because it's only for visionaries who want to serve humanity. And the visionaries who want to serve humanity are now inviting their visionary serve humanity friends into it. And it's just a flywheel. It's just a flywheel because visionaries, this is what they actually want.
It's almost until someone has the opportunity to experience it.
They have to understand. They're not aware. They're not aware.
Words don't translate into the experience, has been my experience. But it is everything that I've ever wanted, which is to be around like-minded people. And the hardest thing, I didn't understand, it's not that like-minded people are rare, although that statistically
they are statistically.
But we're so spread out.
Yes.
And it's only been in the last 20 years that it's even not non-taboo to communicate on this level without getting your legs cut out from under you because of the big monger machine that's there to force propaganda of keeping people as you want human.
I ignore that. I ignore that part of the world, by the way. But again, like, so the second day after COVID shut down, I posted, this will be the greatest opportunity of all time for people with the right mindset, which is what, I mean, it's just fast-tracked levels of consciousness for visionaries that are ready and or understand somehow that they're not a business owner or a human, they're a visionary. And it's been so with my quote unquote business partner, I've met him 2 times in person.
I thought that was amazing when I read that in your book.
Yeah.
Absolutely friggin' the level of business that you guys do.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. And it's an example of what can be done if people are on the same wavelength.
Right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities. It's the same answer. That's why it's 100%. The mindset is 100%. 100, not 99, 100.
The one thing that, so back in 2009, I started listening to a man named Dan Pink. You ever heard of him?
No, I'm looking that up right now.
Yeah, so Daniel Pink, he wrote some books. He used to work for Al Gore as a lawyer, but he came about this process of believing that autonomy, mastery, and purpose are the way that we will solve possibly our candle box problems, which is, I can go into that if you want, but more importantly, possibly save the world. And the idea is when we give people autonomy instead of using management, when they're allowed to then want to master something, and it drives them toward a singular purpose in that process,
Right.
which makes them more effective and more. And I'm telling you, what's that?
That's logical. Yes.
And I started creating that in my own world. We're sitting here now,
Right.
15 years later, and it's just starting to manifest. So I can understand how it can be difficult for people because you don't see the results of that for a while. At least
A visionary will do it though, but that's the difference. So here are the 4 things that separate visionaries from humans, business owners, consultants. Well, there are only 4. Here are the 4 things, and this is not silver spoon. Not silver spoon. That's a different discussion. 4 things: bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. 2, depression. 3, highest level of anxiety you can imagine. 4, trauma as a child or young adult. So humans, business owners, consultants, those are excuses. Visionary, figure it out. Never stop. You never stop. Ever. Ever.
And the coolest part that you're promoting to everyone listening to this right now is if you are one of these visionaries, here's the clue: never, ever quit on yourself.
Never, ever. I spent almost my entire life talking like this, and no one understood what I was talking. No.
It's such the story of the ugly duckling, man.
Absolutely.
And the most amazing friendships for me have occurred almost divine in nature. When we meet, it's like we've known each other.
Correct. That's called the God. Yeah, God.
Right. And you're literally connecting these people
All day.
In fact, I have another podcast today with a lady named Christine McCarran. She's actually driving here, and the only reason she's here is you and I had one 8.5-minute conversation. Next thing I know on LinkedIn, oh, she's a 10. She's even higher than me, but she's coming into the studio, and I'm telling you, everyone, I have a saying: alignment is greater than assignment, which means those of us that have similar core values, it doesn't matter what we do. When you get together with like-minded people, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. It's
right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities.
So with that being said, kind of wrapping things up a little bit. With that being said, what is your greatest vision with what you're doing? It's a blanket statement to me that you don't know. You're just following your bliss with it.
No. Yeah. Okay. So thank you I appreciate you asking that. Okay. So my youngest son, his name is Chase. When he's 9 now, but when he was 8, we were talking about bending time and IQ. So Chase provided the single greatest definition of what life actually is that I've ever heard. So I'm paraphrasing Chase, but so Chase considers life one long great day. Yesterday's before you're born, tomorrow's after you die. And then there are 2 ways to have a great day. 1, create more living things. Fundamental purpose of any living thing is to create more living things. So I don't think there's an argument with that. And then 2, do what you like to do and what you're good at and just keep getting better at it. So I'm good at, and I like to connect visionaries to serve humanity. So I'll never stop doing that. So that's.
How old was he when he said that?
He was 8. That was last year. Yeah. So he's 9. But that's what we talk about. And then there's this really great book that I've started to read. One of my, let me find it here. Itzhak Bentov, Stalking the Wild Pendulum. Stalking the Wild Pendulum.
Ooh, I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah. So he, I'll tell you, this is an aside, but so the book was written in 1977, the year I was born, and then he died in 1979 suddenly. So my friend who sent me this, I started reading the book at the O'Hare Airport Terminal last week. So I was reading it there, and then I looked up, oh, he died suddenly. How did he die? And he died in 1979 on a plane taking off from the O'Hare terminal shortly after takeoff. So I sent my friend, I go, hey, if I die, you better tell my wife what happened, wife and children, because I was serious, because that was an interesting thing, but I didn't die, by the way. But So the one, I mean, the book is endless with great things, but there was one thing that really stood out. I want to make sure that I say it right, but it's essentially there are two deaths. There are two deaths in for a human. One is their body dies, which that's obvious. Okay, great. But then the second death is the psyche. Um, and then the psyche is a collective of knowledge that you have in your life. And then that actually doesn't die. Your human body does, but then the psyche goes into like your children or the people that have listened to this show or whatever, or like the book I'm reading from this guy who died in 1979. Um, I've always, again, subconsciously, unconsciously, consciously, I've always considered myself just like a lesson bridge between my parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents,
Sure.
and my children, their children, their children. So this book was like validation that like you don't really die. So it was really exciting to. So I'll never stop connecting visionaries to serve humanity, even if my body is long gone. So never
How
stop.
beautiful is that, man? You built a legacy. And one of the things that, just made common sense to me is as we were scaling, especially in the West, we were breaking into factions more and more and more.
Hmm.
And so just on a common sense level, it's like, well, that eventually doesn't work ever again. It's like the government doesn't know what the left hand and the right hand are
I
doing.
ignore the government. I didn't. I was talking to Chase, and he's studying politics in school, and he's like, "Dad, what do you think about Kamala Harris?" I go, "Who? I don't know who that is." He goes, "It's the Vice President of the United States." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Thanks for telling me." That happened a couple weeks ago. So we talk about pending time and IQ, and not who, but that was funny. That was pretty funny and really ignorant. And I definitely should have known that, but it was kind of funny to like completely not be. I still don't know what an S corp is. Like I have no idea what that is, and do not tell me what it is. I do not want to learn it. But
Okay.
I think it's funny to not know
It is a beautiful thing.
that stuff.
Be able to do life on your own terms to produce the results that you want to, regardless of other people telling you how you should or should not do
Right.
something. That is the
Exactly.
freedom of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about being a visionary and why people should spend the $55 to take the Colby A assessment test. If you find that your motivations for action are quick start, you need to quit overthinking everything and just do, because that's who you are. And most people have been brainwashed into believing they should be something that they are not. And that's why the anxiety and the depression and the pornography and the drinking and all these other, they're symptoms of not knowing self.
Yep.
And that's why you're on this process of higher spiritual evolution, because you
Yes.
understand that consciousness growth affects every other area. It's a
Everything.
singularity. Yeah, it's where, if I'm going to give energy to something, why not give it to the one thing that feeds the
That's
entire
the best
farm?
game to win. That's the best game to win ever. That's the best point system. And then I'll give you. Oh, you asked earlier about what the network does. So one of our members who's a 10 quick start, we were talking about scale consciousness, and I'm like, is there any test or whatever that like or an assessment that shows where you are in that scale? And we couldn't find one. So his company creates assessments. So he just sent me a beta test, and I took it. And I'm like, dude, if you can perfect that or at least get it pretty close, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate. Oh, and then my wife is the COO. She's like, oh, that's the ultimate credit score. I'm like, oh,
That's
that's
cool.
what it really is. That's the ultimate credit score. Because think credit. That's the ultimate street credit.
Dude, that's really, really cool. And when that
Yeah.
comes out, I would like to take that assessment. I really would like to check it out.
Okay.
Because I've gone through, I mean, I've studied lots of things. I've studied Christianity. I've studied Buddhism.
Right.
I've gone through the Kabbalah. There are different methodologies that are there to help raise your consciousness as well as your spiritual level. But you know what none of them have is a proper grading scale to know where you are on that line.
Correct.
And that's where ego can come and really mess with you,
Yep.
because and that's what we're trying to let go of all the time,
Let
is let
go
go
of
of the
the
ego.
ego.
So I don't want a test or a doctrine that promotes removing my ego to replace my ego with a bigger version of my ego.
Correct. That's fascinating and true. That's a very high level description, but that makes, yeah, the ego is tricking the ego by higher level egoing. And then you're like, wait, am I really high on the scale of consciousness? And okay. So there are two things from this. One, the person who created the survey, he's like, oh, I'll just put that through your company so people can take it. I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, again, no competition. I didn't ask him to do anything. He just did
That's
it.
cool.
But so I was having a conversation with, I'm not definitely not using his name, but he is a genius. His company helps scale other companies. And I sent him this scale, the level of consciousness, and I asked him where he thought he was, and he's like, 350, 400 or whatever. And then I'm like, well, I think, and it's not a competition. It's not. I'm like, well, I'm in the 700, 800s. And then he goes, wow, that's a bold claim. Why do you think that's true? And I go, well, because I'm not scaling companies. I'm talking to visionaries about things that are beyond companies. And the scaling companies is it's a different scale. It's not about emotional, it's not about emotional quotient. It's not about spiritual quotient. It's about employee quotient or revenue quotient. It's not consciousness quotient. So like when you spend all your time talking to visionaries and then you collectively raise levels of consciousness, it kind of eliminates scaling business stuff. It eliminates that stuff.
It makes sense. Have you
Yeah.
ever heard of Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art?
Yes, but I have not read it.
Check that out sometime. It's actually kind of a fun listen if you're an Audible kind of guy. But and it's a great book. It's a great personal development book. You're well beyond it, but you'll relate to it quite nicely.
This
Talks
is the
about
reading
talks
now.
about the muse a lot. What's
This,
that?
I'm reading this now, Chasing Daylight. So this is the KPMG CEO chairman who basically never saw his family his entire CEO life, and
Okay.
then he was diagnosed with 3 months to live. And then I haven't finished it, but he's wrote about what life actually was. So he was winning the wrong game, and then well, that's not funny, but then he gave a gift with that book about what life actually is. So hopefully you don't have to do that when you only have 3 months to live and realize that.
No joke.
That would be
You know,
good.
but wouldn't it be an amazing thing if we could do what your son said and remember that it's just one long day?
Yeah.
Has different parts in it. Some of them are shitty. Some things are not fun, but you just
Whatever.
get up, dust your knees off, and you go back to playing your game. You know,
Right. Correct. It's really not that hard.
it's like out of the mouth of babes too, man.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing because it tells me that intentionally you and your wife are focused on raising the vibration level of your children.
100%. And then again, usually people like us marry stabilizing humans. My wife's a full stabilizing human, and then one of two things happens. One, which is not the situation in our house, the stabilizing human is a preventer, resentment, anger, and does not evolve with visionary. And then it leads to disaster even if they stay married. And then what has happened in our family, my wife has evolved, and then she phases out of pediatrics to become COO of company, and that's the reason why the company's doing so well. And then both kids get to see this world exists from a visionary and integrator standpoint, and then my wife's evolution, and then these are the conversations that we have. And then she's reading to both kids Richard Branson's book, Screw It, Let's Do It, or Screw It, Do It.
Yeah.
And so, right. So that's what I mean. Like, it's just a byproduct of the right mindset, and making no excuses.
You know, so I'm on my second marriage and we've been together 15 years.
Yeah.
And for a long time, my wife needed a rock. She didn't need an artist. So I did my very, very best to become a rock, an integrator.
Oh, God.
And
Oh,
and
God.
and it was
Oh.
I didn't do it well enough. I can
No,
tell
well,
you that.
you're not a rock.
Nope.
You're oh,
But the most beautiful thing happened because she is also a visionary as well as an integrator.
Yeah.
When I brought her to a network of other visionaries,
Yes.
her vibration level really started happening for the first time. And now she is moving the needle so fast that it can be hard for me to keep up with her mind sometimes.
That's great.
That's
a challenge. Go.
And so what we're doing is running. And what I'm helping her do, because she is used to also being a little bit of the rock in the family, I'm helping her to understand that innovation is okay and that you do not have to judge the result that you got last time. Just get up and keep moving. And
Have you Colby'd her? Have you Colby'd her?
No, I have not. And I
she's
talked to
probably a 7, like 5 or 6. And
Yep. I bet you're right.
Yeah.
And I told her about it a couple weeks ago. After talking to you, I was like, hey, I used to assess all of our coaches that came through our program. I can't really remember my score, but I took it again. And this guy, Justin, like, he nailed me in 1 second. I said, you should take this as well, just to see what the motivational levels are for you, because it can help us avoid certain conversations. Huh?
Yeah. I guess she's a 7.752. That's just a pure get. My wife is an 8.
She's a huge fact finder. Yes.
Right. Okay. That's a 7.
Yeah. And I don't want to hear all of those details.
Yeah, but she needs you to hear them.
That's what I'm working on.
Yeah, me too. That Colby matched my wife's and my score. My wife's name is Sarah. And then they're like, Justin, we're not asking you to change your personality, but when Sarah's in the middle of talking, please do not walk out of the room. Like, oh, please walk out of what? And then I forgot.
Right.
I'm just kidding. So yes, they need to finish what they're saying. They have
to. And what I have learned for Robin is that I do not have to attach to any of the words that are coming out of her mouth. She has to throw them up against a dartboard to actually process. So what I've done is I've created a container with an open bottom, and I'm just there for her to throw three free throws. Like, just throw it in.
It helps you become her rock. Go for it.
But my brain processes so quickly that I'm often on step 7 while they're still talking about step 2. And it's like, I get frustrated because I want to innovate. I want to go ahead and break this one because I get it. Let's go.
I understand.
And so I very much relate to you saying, what room was I just in? I just had a thought and I had to go take care of that thing.
Yes.
Dude, if people want to find you and have a conversation with you, number one, I'm going to tell people this right now. This gentleman will not let you waste his time.
No.
That I promise you. But if people do want to reach out to you, if they want to find out about your network, if they just want to have a conversation with you, what is the most effective way for them to do so?
They can go to BrEpicNetwork.org, BrEpic network.org.
And then if they wanted to purchase your book, Epic Life, do they go on Amazon?
Yeah, it's all over the. I found out it's at Walmart and Target too, which is very
man.
Oh, and it's at the Harvard bookstore. I just found that out. Harvard. Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I listened to it on Audible, and it was so refreshing to listen to.
That's the word I hear every day. Refreshing.
Bro, you wrote it. It was such a well-written book. So to your journalism point, like, you're on point. But the guy reading it did the voice matched the story really, really well. So it was an engaging, quick, and it has like 30 some odd tips in there for how you can live a much more functional life.
Functional, yes.
So if you've enjoyed listening to Justin, this is just the tip of his iceberg. I promise you. Read his book, Epic Life. Connect with him at BrEpic.org. Or you can find him on LinkedIn, because that's where he spends most of his time connecting people at Justin Breen. And we'll put all that information below this podcast. Justin, when you have something come out next, you're going to be welcome to come back on here, shout out whatever's going on. I support you 100%, man. It's been amazing talking to you. And I look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you, my friend. This was a great honor.
Thank you, sir. Everybody, we will see you in the trenches. Take care.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Hey, friend. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to catch future casts. If you really enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it so others can benefit from it as well. I'll see you in the trenches.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.